Welcome to the podcast, Entrepreneur's Chef Secrets with Sandra Mausman. And today I have a guest, Julie Ulstrup. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Sandra. I'm delighted to be here with you.
What do you do, Julie? What's your business about?
So I am a business strategist and coach. I work with educators, medical professionals, and other leaders in mission-driven businesses who want to start or grow a profitable business so they can have more time and money freedom. So we speak the same language.
Yeah. How long have you been doing it?
I have been an entrepreneur for, 12 years.
Mm-hmm. And what did you do before the coaching? What was your business?
So before coaching, I had another business, a photography business. And interestingly, portrait photography. And that is a very competitive business. They often referred to as a race to the bottom because people don't earn it. So being a six-figure earner as a photographer, it puts me in the top 1%, which, as you know, most six-figure earners are in the top 15%, which is still a small percentage. But for photographers, it's even smaller because so many photographers are willing to discount.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been a photographer?
Oh, I've been a photographer since I was a very little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I started as a professional photographer when I was in university. And that was back in the day of film. And I took photographs at sorority and fraternity parties. And I actually made really good money doing that. As my college job. And I've had different types of photography jobs off and on throughout the years.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that to be six-figure photographer, it's only 1%. How you accomplished this? Why you was in this 1% of the chosen people?
So I think that for me, so prior to working as a photographer, I was a school counselor and I have a master's degree in counseling. And so basically like the coaching and counseling and consulting. And what I found, the most successful students that I worked with, they would focus on personal and professional development. And so for me to become a top 1%, a six-figure photographer, there was personal and professional development involved because we can't separate our personal selves from our professional selves. And so, I know a lot of business owners have a great skill set and they can use support with the mindset and the tool set.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you worked with your personal development and professional development. I understand what professional development, maybe you took different other courses, you develop yourself as an expert in photography. What's the personal development was for you?
So the personal development is everything from creating habits that are going to make a difference as an entrepreneur because they're different than being an educator or being a medical professional or being an employee of a large organization. So there are habits, there are different mindset tools to share and to know and to make part of a success strategy so that it's the whole picture. I mean, if we're podcast people, I'm making a circle with my hands to show that combination of personal as well as professional development.
So what do you tell which one habit, what helped you to be successful in your photography business? If you can remember or maybe tell.
Absolutely. I can remember because it's still a practice that I have now. So it's a practice that I do in the morning and it's, I get up very early and I had to train myself to do that. I wasn't always a morning person. And that in and of itself is a change in what I used to do. When I worked as an educator, I always used to say, I wake up grumpy. I wake up grumpy in the morning. But you know what? I decided I don't have to wake up grumpy. I can wake up and be joyful, and I can be thankful, and I can be excited for my day, because I always enjoyed what I did. It was just that I had this habit of being grumpy when I woke up in the morning. Mm-hmm. So that's one small thing, but it's, small hinges move big doors. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I have my morning routine that's very specific and involves meditation and journaling and planning my day and putting on my calendar. I keep everything on my phone, but then I also have actually just a card like this, and I write the hours of the day that I'm going to work, and I put in my appointments, and then I fill in with my 3 other big things that I'm going to accomplish for the day. Mm-hmm. And when I accomplish those, my day is done, and I can go to bed and wake up the next day joyful.
Mm-hmm. I like the mindset where you have a choice how you wake up. You can be a grumpy, or you can choose not to be grumpy.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, like I said, it's small, but small hinges move big doors. And that's,
yeah, I see. Yeah. So let's talk more about your photography business. So you started when you were at college, and then how did you find in the pre-interview, you talked a little bit about your niche, and I know what your portrait photographers. Yes. This was one of your niche, was like portrait photographer.
Yes. Yes. And one of the things that we talked about is, for me, it's always been very important to make a difference, to support people, and to have some purpose with what I do. And as a photographer, before I had this insight and this experience, I didn't realize what a big impact and influence I could make by being very specific about who I photograph, but not just who I photograph. It also became about the experience that the people had when, and still have, I still do this, I've expanded my brand.
Yes.
That they have when they work with me. They change the way they see themselves. If they haven't seen themselves as strong or powerful or brave or courageous, we create a session where they can see that in themselves. And nearly 90% of everything that our brain processes in any given moment is visual. And so having a visual representation, especially as an entrepreneur, because all days aren't, not every day is cupcakes and unicorns and roses. So having that visual representation of who really, the essence of who they are, can be, quite honestly, life-changing. And so that very specific niche of photographing, the project I did was photographing women over 50. And it was, and still is, a very, very powerful experience.
Why did you choose to photograph women after 50?
Well, I'm over 50, and I was at the time. And even though I consider myself open to being photographed, there was some resistance to it. Now, it seems like, okay, that seems a crazy niche to choose, because you're choosing people who admit to hate. Oftentimes they say they hate being photographed, and to me, this was like a dagger in my heart. I'm like, when we can't see ourselves and see our own power, how can we expect for others to see us in the way we want to be seen? And it affects everything. Like I said, nearly 90% of anything that enters our brain at any given moment is visual. And I just, the hate part was really like, it hurt my heart to know that women hated seeing themselves. And so I wanted to create an experience and an opportunity where they could love the way they see themselves, where they could love, how they show up in front of the camera, where they could love what they see when they look at their photographs.
So for this 15 plus women, why they would need photographer they were looking for, because they don't want to do photography. Yes. So why they would have the photographer? It was for the business or for what?
Great question. Often, yes, for business, branding, photography, very important to have, if you're going to be a six-figure business owner, we need to have professional portraits made. It's not just a want, it's a need. The other piece of it is really, and this goes back to my counseling experience, every single human on the planet has a deep desire. It's a foundational desire after, food, water, shelter, air, to be seen and to be heard. And when we can't see ourselves, who else is going to see us? And so for women to be seen through my lens, like I said, it's life-changing. And so what I did is I shared stories of women that I had photographed and the transformation that they had. I did share this in my TED Talk and talked about the experience. So yeah, it's a very interesting choice for me, to say the least, to say, okay, I'm gonna photograph women who hate to be photographed.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like a winning value proposition at all. It very much is.
Yeah. So how did you market yourself? Like, where did you find this, and where you located when you were located when you did the photography?
So I was located where I'm still located, which is in northern Colorado. Okay. And I still offer photography services. Like I said, I've expanded my brand to offer coaching and consulting for business owners who, want to save time and money and have greater clarity and more focus and that kind of thing. And so some of it was word of mouth. And some of it was Facebook advertising. I did some Facebook advertising at the time. And some of it was really being very well connected into my local community.
Yeah. Did you partnership with, or I don't know, was there partnerships then? Like
I did actually. And I partnered with two nonprofits, which I feel like this is like a super tip alert. I have a friend who's like, super tip alert. When I first started, I partnered with two organizations that still support people through cancer treatment, through their cancer journey. Now, there were several reasons for me doing this. My mom passed from cancer, and I thought this is a way that I can support these organizations that support people through their cancer journey, and I can support the people. So I can support the organization and I can support the people. And I mean, I had results from everything from, really people terrified, women specifically terrified to be photographed. This isn't how I look. This isn't how I want to be seen. And yet it is a stage of their life. One woman said to me, shouldn't we celebrate every stage and every time of our life? So the tip alert is partnering with a nonprofit is a really powerful way to get a lot of people who you would not know in your community and donate your services to something that you're passionate about and something that you're really committed to making a difference. So yeah, that is one of the ways that I connected with people.
Yeah. So what you would tell that, again, you were very successful as a photographer. What was different in your strategy than somebody who are a photographer, but they're not very successful? What was different for you? What you did different?
Yeah, it goes back to the skill set, the mindset, and the tool set. I think for me, part of it was really getting very clear on I have a service to provide that's of very high value, and then charging accordingly. Many photographers, they give away free photo shoots. They make it when you're giving away, and now I would do this for nonprofits because I care deeply about supporting them. But photographing people for free, the experience is different. The value exchange, the energy exchange, or photographing people for a very low dollar, a cheap experience is a cheap experience. Mm-hmm. And I did not fall into that. I always behaved in a way that was of the highest professionalism. I gave the highest level of service, the highest level of value. And there was a monetary exchange for that kind of experience and that kind of photographs. I mean, when we look on social media, there's so many images around. We can take beautiful photographs with our phone, and really being able to connect with the people that I photograph, help them feel comfortable and have that experience. It's like nothing else they've had ever before. I have a story of and they were part of the cancer people that I photographed, and a woman came in and she had 2 adult grown daughters and a granddaughter who's also an adult. So she was, a woman that had had many years experience. And as they were having their hair and makeup done, and we were talking about their photo shoot, we had a planning session prior, which I still do, really getting to know the person. And she said to me, I will never forget this because it was so funny. She said, I've never had a professional photo shoot like this. She said, the only other time that I've been professionally photographed was at church. And it was like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And I laughed so hard because I thought, this was this older woman who maybe had, I don't know, a lot of times she'd been photographed. And she had this experience that was, like an assembly line that wasn't at all satisfying or of great value. So
yeah, I also liked how I think in the pre-interview you told what you had a mission. Like so many people, they just go to photography just to make money, but you had something like higher mission for your photography.
Absolutely. And the higher mission and vision is to change lives, to help women specifically change the way they see themselves and to really elevate anybody who I photograph, anybody who's in front of my lens, to see themselves as brilliant and powerful and all of the things that they're meant to be. Because when we see ourselves that way, we can go out into the world and we can be the people who we are. So, yeah.
Yeah. So how you transitioned from photography to the coaching and why? If you were so successful, like what driven you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what I realized is I was having so many people, after their photo shoot. In fact, I had a woman pretty recently say to me, after my photo shoot, 6 months later, my life has been changed for good. And it just was transformed immediately. And what I realized is I can have much more depth and breadth of impact through coaching and consulting. It's something that I've done and practiced for, 25 years as, working with lots of different ages of people. And so really having that depth and breadth of impact through coaching and the photography. It's been an expansion for me, I feel like, and it's coming full circle. Like I said, when I was in college, I loved and I worked as a photographer, did very well. Then I had this long career as a counselor, and bringing those things together seemed like the natural next step.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a niche for your coaching?
My niche is to work with educators, medical professionals, and other leaders in mission-driven businesses who they might have a business that is small or, kind of what they call a side hustle, or maybe they don't have a business at all, but they have a great idea. I read somewhere recently, Inc. or Entrepreneur magazine, that nearly 80% of people have an idea to grow, to start a business. And so my idea is really to help people who are mission driven, and I know there are a lot of people who are, but really specifically educators and medical professionals. And part of the reason for that is there's this idea in our culture, and I lived in this, this is talking about the mindset as well, but I lived in this idea that I don't need to make a lot of money, I make a difference. Well, we can do both. Mm-hmm. and that's really how, in my opinion, it should be. Educators make a huge difference and a huge impact for people every single day. I worked in higher ed, I worked in high school and middle school, and had impact on thousands of people. Impact on, when I worked in higher ed, on neuroscientists and law professors, and I was able to have that kind of impact, and I wanted to be able to get back to that and to affect more people with more depth and more breadth, and help them have more clarity, more focus, so they can have their dreams come true.
How did you choose this niche? Why you chose this niche particular for educators and medical professionals?
Well, really, I see a lot of burnout. I mean, there's a lot of conversation. In fact, I called the school district where I used to work to connect and to let them know that I have these upcoming courses and to offer that to some of the educators. I called two different people in two completely different areas of the system. They were out on leave, meaning they had either some kind of medical health condition or a mental health condition. And I still have friends in the field who are burnt out, who feel like they're not making a difference, they're not having an impact. Oh, and by the way, they're strapped financially. And so it's an opportunity for them to expand possibilities.
So you work with these educators, maybe somebody who works in the school, yes? Mm-hmm. And then you show them possibility that maybe they could teach somewhere else, or they could.
Generally, I'm going to sneeze, just excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Generally, it's really educators, medical professionals, again, people in corporate organizations that are mission driven. Maybe they have been a service, in a service kind of business, that they can take the skills that they have and create. I would love for every single one of my clients to be on your podcast, to be six-figure entrepreneurs.
Yes, and I want you.
And I've got a client right now who's on the way to doing that. She's got a 5-figure offer, and she is an educator, and she's like, I'm not good at sales. And I say to her, wait a minute, you taught for a very long time. Now, when you're teaching, sometimes kids want to learn, sometimes they don't want to learn. So you are selling them. You're selling them on the idea of reading or arithmetic or whatever it is. And that's kind of one of those gaps that I see. And so filling that gap and helping people to see you have a lot of skills that with a little bit of finesse and a little bit of mindset change, you can be phenomenal at this and you can make a big impact, have a lot of influence, and make a lot of money.
Yes.
To have that time and money freedom, not money for the sake of hoarding, but money for the sake of, doing what you want to do and living the way that you want to live.
And especially right now when, I don't know, do you see this problem or not, but in America, education is very difficult. I don't know, is it like in higher standards? Yes. And when you can find a teacher who is really passionate and have this mission of helping kids and just want to really help the kids to learn, it's such a unique diamond teacher. And if he can maybe show himself, his power, his strengths, his, again, knowledge, I think everybody needs this kind of like teacher who really love what he do.
Absolutely. And to be working more on, their own terms, to be able to say, this is what I want, this is how I'd like to do it. And sometimes I do have clients who have stayed in their career and had some, additional still coaching and until they're ready to move into full-time entrepreneurship or, having entrepreneurship as a way. So when I started my business, my photography business, as an educator with a master's degree and 20 years of experience, within 3 years, I doubled my income. That could never happen in education as an educator. Never.
When you work for somebody else.
Correct. Yeah. But as an entrepreneur, Sandra, very good point. When you work for yourself, you get to choose. You get to, what it looks like. Now, there are things that we have to do, as you know, and do it in a way that's aligned with our purpose and our passion.
Yeah. Yeah, I like your, I think what's very important and what's your biggest strength is this mission. Yes, what people are really lacking of, if you have the mission, people will come, like really clients will come if you really true to yourself and what you really want, you do it, what you do, what you love, you do. I think it's the biggest, like your win in your life.
It is. And that doesn't mean that, you sit down and say, okay, this is my mission and people are going to start walking to you. There are certain things that we need to do as far as business things, mission, vision, and values, creating a really strong foundation, and then honing those skills that we already have so that we can use them in a way that serves others.
Yeah. But it's definitely easier. It's definitely easier to sell if you have the mission, you have purpose, and you don't give up. And
you can feel it, and that it's what's right for you. It's your, it's your calling. It's what you're meant to do.
And how you work with the people who tell, but I don't have a calling, I don't have mission. Like they don't see this strength in themselves. You get your photography knowledge.
Yeah. So most of the people who I work with have some kind of idea. Now, because they are people who are in either a mission-driven organization as educators, like I said, educators are often like, well, I didn't go into it for the money. They went into it for something else because they wanted to make a difference. Medical professionals, the same way, nurses, and they go into it because they have a big heart and they know they have something to give and to share with the world. Sometimes, though, to your point, being in a system that is often feels like what I've heard is, and I was in a system that felt the same way, felt like I got chewed up and spit out and stomped on, after grinding through paperwork. I'm not going to go into all of the the nuances of why people get burned out, but they forget even, Sandra, it's very interesting. You asked me about the 50 over 50 project. When we're children, when we're young, we know we have this spark in us. We know, we love life. We have so much joy. And it's like nobody's born hating to be photographed.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's born to live a life of, drudgery. I mean, we're all born with a purpose, but sometimes we forget. Sometimes we forget, that we're born to be beautiful and powerful and strong. And sometimes we forget that we got into this because we have this mission and this purpose. It's not just like, we're not just here to churn through and to, work 10 or 12-hour days and eat dinner and, then die. Like, we're here for something bigger. And so most people who I work with, I believe all of us have it in us. It's not just in some of us, it's in all of us. But we forget. We forget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And when you work with these educators or medical professionals, do you always move them to the business side, but they should open something, or they just need to find this purpose again and not to be burned out and again find the sparkle in their life?
Yes. Sometimes that is what I do, but more often than not, it's turning their expertise, their knowledge, their skills into a successful entrepreneurial journey. Because as you said, that is a way to to have a really phenomenal income that can serve you, to have more time and money freedom. I mean, I think that's a big an impetus for a lot of people, that they don't have to struggle with money anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you went to this business coaching, did you take any certificates, or your knowledge was, I think, enough already?
I have a master's degree and 25 years of experience. So I have not taken any formal, well, I do. I have a master's degree in counseling. So to me, that is, and then I have a successful business. And I am also a person who, as an educator, always required to take more education. And when I started my entrepreneurial journey, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on my own coaching. So knowing the things, the systems, the processes, what works, I've earned my chops.
Yeah, definitely. So what kind of programs do you have? Do you have like 1 month, 3 months, 1 year program when you work with a client?
That's a great question. What I have several different options. I still offer half-day photo shoots, which is, one of the things that I offer. I also offer a 7-week program that's really like a startup accelerator program. We meet twice a week. There is a lot, it's a big time commitment for people. So it's for people who are really like, yes, I'm going, I want this. We meet twice a week and I share with them proven practices, success strategies. They get homework, and then we meet the second time of the week, and they go through what they've accomplished. And I've had clients say, what I thought it was going to take me 2 years to accomplish what we accomplished in 7 weeks. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so people can say, I'm good after 7 weeks. Now, most people continue to work with me for a year, at least after that. So I've got a year-long program. And then I also have a community. So as part of the startup program and as part of the year-long program, the community is a part of that, or people can just join as part of the community. And usually we do that in 6-month increments, but they could also do it month to month. It's a much better value. And I feel like there's much better outcomes if they choose to stay longer because they're with a community. There's so much to be said in, having a community of supportive people around us as we grow, because we're growing and we're changing. And Dan Sullivan, who wrote 10x is easier than 2x, says, surround yourself with the people who know you as your future self, something to that effect. And it's really, you want to be in an environment where there are people who want the same things for you and see a future full of possibilities. I have clients who say, that they have naysayers in their lives. People like, you can't do that. You don't. Well, you can. You can.
Yeah. When I started my astrology and feng shui business 3 years ago, the first thing what I liked was the community, to people who understand what I'm going through, that whatever I'm going through is normal.
Yes.
It was a huge for me, because I have like so many people who say that like, this is stupid. It's like what you're doing is not right, or it will never be successful. And I was battling only me with all these people. But if I would have a community, it will be so much easier to go this path.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's my community. We meet once a week, and so having that consistency of belief in yourself and having other people that believe in you instead, because you're still going to have the people, like you said, Sandra, who say you're crazy and you're this and you're that. And to hear those other voices that say, no, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You're brilliant.
Yeah. So when you started your business, did you start it with this 7-week business, or you started with a coaching one-on-one, then you find out your style, like how you develop these programs?
What I did is I looked through what had helped me to create success. I took a very close and detailed look at what are the things that helped me to have success relatively quickly, and I looked at those things and I thought, what are the essential elements? Like if somebody came to me and then they decided they wanted nothing else, what could I share with them of value in the shortest amount of time so they could get, because that's the thing. The people that work with me, they save time and money. And, the work we do together, I hear that time and time again. They have more clarity, more focus. And so I put together the 7-week program for that. And then the year long after that, and the community. So there are places to enter in any of those places. It doesn't have to be in that order. And like I said, people who join with the 7-week program or the year-long program also have access to the community, which, like you said, it's really powerful in your own experience.
Yes, I want to ask something else. And I forgot the question. How much is your 7-week program, if you can share right now?
Absolutely.
Maybe you're getting
no, absolutely. I'm happy to share. It's $12,500. And it's, like I said, it's twice a week. It's an hour a week. It's a very deep dive into, what is it that you want? What do you want your business to look like? What is your mission? You said that earlier, Sandra, like that's the difference in creating a high value exchange, is having a mission. And then what's your vision and what are your values? And then what are the other parts that you need? What are the, some of the nuts and bolts of marketing and sales and processes and systems and speaking and, authoring and all of those things.
Yeah. So do you also help them to tell you need to create social media. It's how you create social media. This, you need to create a website. This is maybe some basics, what you need to do is a website.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they're a person who has a business, and who has been maybe not as financially successful or not served as many people as they want to, okay, what are the things that are working? And what do we need to change? What needs to, what do you need to focus on? Because again, there's so many things as entrepreneurs we could focus on and never get any of them accomplished because there's so many things. So really choosing the right things and the way to approach the things that we choose.
Is your community like a bonus for people who go to 7-week program, or also people can join paid anytime?
Oh, people can join. Yes, they can join month to month, which I don't recommend. I usually recommend a 6-month or a year long, but they can do that without the one-on-one if they choose.
And how much it is?
So if it's month to month, it's $500 a month. If it is, for shorter amounts of time, there are, value pricing for a 6-month program and for a year-long program.
And you meet every week, yes?
We meet every week. And the thing that's great about it is there's a lot of sharing of ideas. It's a combination of content. I share content and I have a framework that I work around very specifically. It's based actually on an ancient practice called Ikigai. And what I love about it, Ikigai is not my creepy old boyfriend. Ikigai is a practice and a way of living in Okinawa, which used to be a blue zone where they had a very high percentage of people living to be over 100. And, again, kind of going back to what you were saying about mission and purpose, it's what do you love? What can you get paid to do? What are you good at? And what does the world need? And we look at all of those through the lens of entrepreneurship, through the specific, just different ideas of what's important, accountability, all of those different kinds of things that help make a successful business.
And how do you market yourself? Do you have social media? You have a
I do.
podcast?
I have a pretty strong presence on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I also have a YouTube channel where I share short bits of, success strategies and proven practices. I'm an educator at heart. So, I like to share. I like to give people ideas and things that they can try. And so, it's my name. It's Julie Ulstrup. If you look up my name on YouTube, you'll find my TED Talk as well as my YouTube channel. And I've got success strategies and proven practices in, kind of bite-sized morsels.
Yeah. And how do you find your clients? Do you have funnels you create some emails, you do the calls, like sales calls?
Yeah, it's a combination. I don't do cold sales calls. I do speaking. I speak and I teach workshops. Other people ask me to, come and teach and speak and share. I've got actually several this month. I offer master classes occasionally. And then I've got my YouTube channel and LinkedIn.
Yeah. And you decided to focus on LinkedIn, not Facebook or Instagram. You see it's where your audience is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. My audience is people who have some experience, people who are professionals. For me, that's the best place. Now, it might be different for some of my clients depending on what their industry is in. And as I mentioned way back at the beginning, 45 minutes ago, that when I was working as a photographer specifically with the 50 over 50 campaign, I worked with Facebook. So I'm very familiar with many different social media avenues and how to use them and how to leverage them to create, a six-figure plus business.
And who you have on your team?
So I have myself, I have an assistant, I've got a bookkeeper, I have a pretty skeleton team at this point. We haven't got, and I think that's another really important thing to know. Like, yes, what is my zone of genius? Where should I be working? What should I be doing and spending most of my time doing? And until I get to a place where I feel like I'm ready to turn some of those things over, like bookkeeping, I've got a tax person as well. So some of those very, what I consider, the skills that are not in my zone of brilliance or my zone of genius, those are definitely things that I send out and have contractors do. And right now I'm the one who leads the courses. I am in the process of creating some online courses, that are self-paced, and I've got some workbooks and things like that. But I don't have anybody yet instructing, coaching, counseling using my method. So.
So maybe you can share some 3 tips for the inspiring entrepreneurs to be successful.
Yeah, so I think this idea, and I've mentioned it already, but really combining and being open to personal and professional development, being open to saying, what is it that I need to know about me so that I can become an entrepreneur and knowing what you want. I mean, I think that's huge. I think sometimes people are like, well, I want this. I know that we all learn, start with why, start with why, start with why. Simon Sinek, 18 million views on that TED Talk. I think really we need to start with what? Like, what is it that I want as an entrepreneur? What is it that brings me alive? What do I have to offer? Right? And so I guess those would be, that might be more than 3, Sandra. I might have shared more than 3 things, but that's what I think.
Perfect. And how people could work with you?
So they can work with me one-on-one. They can work with me in my group program. They can attend my master classes.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Julie. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.